You want education to be like as close to a video game as possible, like a good video game.
You enhance students' learning and engagement with gamification.
I'm a gamification designer, speaker, and geek, and one of the first people in the world to have a PhD in gamification design.
We decided to just go ahead and do an episode on the topic of gamifying education.
With virtual learning being more prominent than ever, gamification is being used to help students better connect with their learning.
Gamification.
Gamification.
By gamification.
On gamification.
The desire to arrive finally at logically connected concepts is the emotional basis of a vague play with basic ideas. This combinatory or associative play seems to be the essential feature in productive thought. Education and technology have become increasingly intertwined as time passes. This has paved the way for innovation in the education space and new, unique approaches to teaching and learning. One such approach that has gained significant traction in recent years is the gamification of education. By utilizing core concepts and principles frequently found in video games, the gamification of education as a whole aims to re-engineer teaching and learning by integrating aspects frequently used in game design to engage students. In particular, aspects such as leaderboards, challenges, points, and badges are used to attract students' attention in an effort to add a second dimension to their grades. But what makes gamification such a powerful tool for education and beyond? Gamification taps into the psychological principles that games themselves use to engage players' attention. Games have a natural tendency to place challenges before the player to encourage persistence in the face of challenges, which in turn builds a sense of progress and achievement when players eventually end up succeeding. Over the course of this video essay, we will examine the ins and outs of the gamification of education, challenges that gamification presents, how students can benefit from it, and even expand on its implications for the future of education. From K-12, elementary classrooms, higher education, and beyond, gamification has emerged as a versatile strategy for enhancing student motivation, retention, and academic performance. By delving into the key concepts at play and example case studies surrounding gamified education, we aim to shed light on the impact that gamification can have on educational outcomes and student success. Although gamification is a topic of recent debate, the concept of gamification itself is deeply rooted in society. When raising children, parents often make trivial things into little competitions for their kids. A mom dares her child that she can eat her veggies faster than her child. The child then feels the desire to win and be rewarded or even just recognized for their success. Competition between children is an extremely powerful and frequently used tactic to make kids feel incentivized to work hard and be rewarded. The goal of all this is to make chores fun, because
if it's not fun, why bother?
Because if activities are fun, then kids are more likely to compete and engage. While researching the impact of gamification on student engagement, I came across an intriguing book titled Gamification Using Gaming Technology for Achieving Goals by Teresa Shea, a former educator and author of over 100 books. This book overviews many different aspects of the gamification movement and many different useful applications as well. Although Teresa Shea's specific qualifications beyond their teaching experience are not readily available, her book has great insight into how gamification is applied across different mediums, not just education. As we dive into the key concepts and strategies outlined in her book, we'll uncover valuable insights that can inform our understanding of the potential benefits and challenges of gamification in educational settings and beyond. Gamification of education doesn't just mean that students are playing video games in class, because at the end of the day, most educational video games suck. Most of the time, they're boring and not engaging at all. Teresa Shea says, video games also offer the opportunity of failure, which can be a positive learning experience. Gamers fail all the time, but then they start over and amend their actions until they get it right. This could translate well in an educational game, whereas failure on a test or quiz can halt the learning process. Educators need to research games and match them to their students' needs. Additionally, a main concept of gamification is not just learning through gaming, but also game making. By providing tools and platforms that allow students to design and develop their own games, teachers can harness the intrinsic motivation and engagement that comes from creative expression and problem solving. Gamification in Education, the Motivation, Exploration, Implementation Theory is an article in Volume 12, Issue 7 of the Turkish online Journal of Qualitative Inquiry from July 2021 by many authors including Cyril A. Cabuella, Mark N. Adiondo, Alan Marbiat, Danilo P. Pluma, and Alexander Hipe. Their study was conducted to formulate a theory about gamification that can enhance the, quote, teaching learning process and the educational environment conducive to learning. From their research, they established the motivation, exploration, implementation theory. They clarify the key concepts of gamification that their theory is built on by first breaking it down into 5 axioms. Number 1. Gamification is universal in terms of its application to different topics discussed in the academic. Number 2. Gamification provokes the learners to think critically. Number 3. Gamification sustains the learner's motivation and engagement in a classroom discussion. Number 4. Gamification creates no boundaries among the students since it is widely used in different schools in the country. And number 5. Gamification provides a consistent way of teaching and learning from each other, as students also share expertise in manipulating gadgets and different high-end technologies. From these 5 axioms, the authors then formulated 10 propositions about gamification that are key to success with gamification in the classroom. Let's break them down with quotes from the authors to explain. Number 1, make the game designs and applications friendly. The authors say that, quote, making the instructions friendly in every activity or game application will aid the learners to maximize their time in playing while learning. Studies show that when users are sometimes stuck in the instructions on how to play a game because it is not a user-friendly application, the learners tend to be demotivated. Number 2, have more interesting and thought-provoking activities online. If the activities are boring and the graphics suck, then the students will feel frustrated, especially those fast-paced learners. The authors say it is critical to create interesting activities that will sharpen the analytical abilities of the students. Number 3, provide clear and simple instructions for performing the activities. The authors emphasize that clear and definite directions will establish a sense of excitement and motivation to be engrossed in the activities. Number 4, formulate activities and tasks that should be locally contextualized. Quote, the reason behind why gamified activities and tasks are locally contextualized is because learners, while playing and learning, they also would like to take into consideration the impact of its significance to their attitude and behavior that may also be influenced. Number 5, create attainable learning and behavioral goals. Quote, if the learning objectives and behavioral goals are not obtainable, the learners will end up disappointed, frustrated, and most of all, demotivated because of the high standards set in the gaming activities. Number 6, provide a reward system right after each milestone in that activity. Quote, the integration of incentives, points, levels and rankings, and badges as part of the reward system in gamification encourages learners to incessantly repeat the games in order to establish their reputation and encourage others to play the games as well. Number 6, make all learning activities fun and interactive.
If it's not fun, why bother? If it's not a battle, where's the fun?
In every gamified activity, the involvement of the user is very essential. If the user is the one playing the game, the user will be hooked and stay connected until the game is over. Number 8. Gamification should have the applications supported by the government to make it accessible to all learners. Quote, if the gamified activities are set only for the students who belong to the upper class in socioeconomic status, then quality and engaging education is not for all. Number 9. Gamification should create a competitive learning environment. Quote, the use of gamification in education establishes a competitive learning environment wherein learners are thinking of the common understanding that they should not be left behind. Plainly, the main purpose of why gamification in education should have a competitive environment is for the purpose of maximizing engagement and sustained motivation. Number 10. Gamification should encourage learners to provide their feedback about the game designs with its applications for the improvement of the activities. Quote, with this premise, learners are vital instruments or components in the process of refining effective gamified activities that will contain thought-provoking inquiries and tasks. Scratch is a website that allows students to create animations, interactive tales, and games by connecting colored blocks of code, making coding accessible and enjoyable for students of all ages. Scratch transforms students from passive consumers of digital material to active participants in the creative process. They acquire important computational thinking skills like sequencing, loops, and conditionals, while also exploring game design elements like mechanics, dynamics, and aesthetics. This hands-on approach to learning not also encourages creativity and critical thinking, it also boosts students' confidence and resilience as they iterate on their creations and solve difficulties. Picture a middle school classroom where the students are charged with developing instructional games to teach math. Students use Scratch in small groups to discuss game ideas, create characters and locations, and implement game mechanics that emphasize math topics like fractions and geometry. As students are working on their games, they have discussion about math, problem-solving tactics, and game design principles, all while actively applying their knowledge in a creative and meaningful way. By incorporating game design into the gamification of education, educators enable students to take control of their learning journey, sowing seeds of agency, creativity, and mastery. Scratch not only helps kids gain technical abilities, but it also fosters a love of learning and a lifetime appreciation for the power of creativity and play. As it says on Scratch's main website, Scratch promotes computational thinking and problem-solving skills, creative teaching and learning, self-expression and collaboration, and equity in computing. Video games themselves are not the sole focus of education gamification. The classroom experience is usually the subject. The Quest to Learn school in New York City is a pioneering example of how to incorporate gamification principles into the fabric of learning environments. Founded back in 2009 in New York City, they envision education as a dynamic and engaging experience in which students go on epic journeys, conquer tough obstacles, and improve their abilities using the power of gaming. Their website says that Quest to Learn was designed from the ground up by a team of educators, researchers, and game designers, and firmly grounded in over 30 years of learning research. Quest to Learn reimagines school as one node in an ecology of learning that extends beyond the four walls of an institution and engages kids in ways that are exciting, empowering, and culturally relevant. Their motto is that at Quest to Learn, learning happens by doing. The Quest to Learn concept is called game-based learning. It's based on the belief that learning is intrinsically fun and that games provide an effective framework for engaging students in deep, meaningful learning experiences. Inspired by game design and game-based learning ideas, Quest to Learn's curriculum is organized around quests. They are thematic, interdisciplinary units of study that encourage students to explore, experiment, and interact in their pursuit of knowledge. Each quest at Quest to Learn is meticulously designed to combine academic subjects with game mechanics. A quest on ancient civilizations, for example, may entail students pretending to be archaeologists, performing research, reading old manuscripts, and solving various historical puzzles in order to unveil secrets of the past. The success of the Quest to Learn model has prompted educators and policymakers alike to question the potential of gamified education. By exploiting games' innate engagement and motivation, Quest to Learn illustrates how learning can be converted into an exciting experience in which students are active participants in their own educational journey.
You want education to be like as close to a video game as possible, like a good video game. Like, you do not need to tell your kid to play video games. They will play video games on autopilot all day. So if you can make it interactive and engaging, then you can make education far more compelling and far easier to do.
The article Gamification with Scratch or App Inventor in Higher Education, a systematic review by David Perez George and Maria Carmen Martinez Marchino, is about a study the authors did of a review of over 405 papers to analyze the impact of Scratch and another game-making learning platform called App Inventor. The results from their study make clear how successful gamification has been when applied correctly. Quote, Scratch and App Inventor simulate and develop university students' autonomy, attention, motivation, and computational, critical, and creative thinking. They also encourage social interaction, communication, and problem solving. Since they develop transversal competencies, they should be introduced in all disciplines. Thanks for watching.